And welcome to another exciting episode of The Energy That Surrounds Us. I'm your host, Michael, and tonight I am joined again by a truly amazing guest who, to catch you all up on when she was last on, we were talking about she was starting a project she was in the theory of, trying to figure out how to make it work. So tonight we have a very cool surprise about that, an update. So without further ado, I'm going to let her share that. So I'm going to turn it over to introduce herself again, the one, the only, amazing bright light, Bobbie Richardson.
Thanks, Michael. It's a
Thank you.
beautiful introduction right there. I love that. I'm a very bright light. Love that. Okay, yeah. So before, when we were chatting, I was talking about creating a school, and I've formed a school now. It's called Amical, and Amical is actually means learning the intuition in Palladian language. So I called it that because this is kind of like a new. It's I don't like, we all have these terms, and then we have New Age and all that sort of thing. Well, it's a new higher frequency sort of a school where we can learn all about telepathy, telekinesis, astral traveling, remote viewing, past lives, you name it. We'll go into it. Telekinesis, I've done that. I think I even said that. I've actually got a video up there of me moving an object. And it's like everything that I'm creating, I've already had experiences with. So I can teach you, but it's like my whole life has been incrementally just tapping into those sort of abilities. It's just so I can say, yes, they do exist, so that I can create this school and then teach others. But other people will take it further, their passion and their desire and their hearts are like, oh my gosh, I really love this lesson. I want to even dig deeper about all that sort of subject. But at the moment, I have like 50 telepathic games and or over 50 and lessons at the moment. So I only started it up like a month or so ago, a couple of months ago, and we've already got people signed up, and so it's moving, and I'm really excited to be able to present that with you guys. So yeah, I have actually just, if you go on my Facebook, I've just put up a little advert and stuff on that. So you can see it right, it's pinned to the top if you wanted to have a look. But yeah, it's pretty much my team, Palladian team and me doing this. So they'll give me ideas, and then I'm like, oh, very cool. Let's try that one, and we'll see if we can ground that lesson for the rest of humanity. Yeah, it's really awesome.
That is, and I have one very important question for you around that. Where can people find this school?
Yeah, so it's on Patreon. Um, we will have to put the links down below, but it's under my name, Patreon at Bobbie Richardson. At the moment, I didn't know if I was setting it up, how I was setting it up, but that's how it's come across. So we'll just leave it at Bobbie Richardson .com. I think it's patreon.com. I'm not sure, but I will see if we can get that link and put that in as well for you. But if you go to my website, codes to a new reality.com, it's there anyway. Oh, you've got it there. See, yeah, so clever, so clever. Yeah, so it's also on my website, which is www.codestoanewreality.com as well. Yeah. So lots has happened since I've last seen you, Michael. I mean, that's just one aspect.
Yes, and so one thing I'm curious about with the school, and I haven't had a chance to really look at the Patreon fully, but I remember at one point you were talking about having like a visual to show what it was like to fly a Palladian ship. Did that
Um,
ever come to fruition, or is that
yeah.
still in the works?
There is a couple of games there that are taken on a more of a Palladian ship, and so yes, I have created a game specifically around that, but I've done so many more as well. So you kind of get in a ship, um, go to a planet, and so it travels to the planet, and then there'll be three beeps on that planet when you land on a page. It's just like a visual of something, and then you land on it, and then it'll go beep, 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 and it's like, what am I actually focusing on? So telepathically link into me, intuitively link into me, and then see which image I'm actually focusing on. So and then you get on another in the spaceship again, and then you go to another planet, and that sort of thing. That's the space ones. I have done one that is around the Palladian ships, but I couldn't say, like, I should probably do one that's really just Palladian. I think that there's a mixture in that game. But I have done I don't know if I spoke about this last time, but I've actually done a journey on Pallades. It's called and going into a portal into Pallades, and there's several of them. I've done Pallades, Arcturian, the future Earth, and the Elementals, and they're all just video footage of traveling to these places, and then I link in with them and channel through information. Because my story is like I could see interdimensionally, I had a lot of visitations from different beings and so forth. I've used those frequencies to be able to tap in and tune into these beings and be able to pull some information through about them. My mum had the same gift. I think I probably brought that up on your last thing as well, but just for the new viewers, my mum had the same gift, and she could see into different dimensions, but she shut it down. She didn't like it. It was too much for her, and I was too curious. I was so curious about it all, and it ended up taking me on many different trips and understandings of where we could go, especially the future Earth was like a potential of humanity, of where we could go. When I woke up, I literally fell asleep and woke up in this potential, and it was so vivid and so real to me. I can't describe it any other way, but the first thing I noticed was my mind was just still, like just still. And that gave me the ability of clarity to be able to be telekinetic, have telepathy and all of that sort of thing. And I've also met a Cherokee elder who's held my hand and talked to me telepathically, and I experienced that with her full on. So I've got all of these snippets in my life to be able to lead me up to creating this school to help others, and hopefully ignite them, because humans are so much more powerful than what we know. We've just been our focus has been diverted into fear, into the fear game, and it's just given us a very one-sided reality where the only thing that exists is the physical form, the physical material world. And yet the physical material world is created from us, and we've been like our imagination has been hijacked and then diverted into fear. And so we've imprisoned ourselves, so to speak. We can blame it on those that sort of hijacked our imagination. But if we want to take our power back, we have to see that we gave it to them as well. We became a victim. We saw them as less power than us, and I was bringing that up before the show, that it was that less power that you see somebody is more powerful than you, then you have already given away your power. And yet through the eyes of source energy, prime creator, everything is energy, and energy meeting energy is all at the same power, because we have the ability to be expansive and say with by will, I will myself to stay here, even if you do have, say, a sword pointing at me, and then the circumstance around us, the outside reality, will fold into that and create the path needed, whether it be a lightning strikes the sword or whatever. I was speaking about that too before. So yeah, we are way more powerful than what we give ourselves credit for, and it's time to take our power back and understand that nobody is more powerful than anyone else. Now we can start creating the reality that we really want to create without the fear game taking our attention.
It's interesting how this is all unfolding because when I look at what's going on worldwide, is humanity as a whole, in my viewpoint of, and my perspective, in my opinion, is a majority of the people who have always been like, this isn't right, we need to change this, but felt no power to do it, are now starting to feel empowered and are starting to initiate the change, and everything is starting to change to
Shift.
a
Yeah.
whole new level. And I just find it interesting that along the lines of that occurring, your school premieres
Yeah.
and its focus is to help teach you to lift yourself up, reclaim your power. So basically, your school is in line with what humanity is trying to do right now. And I have the viewpoint they're going to succeed, and that all the
Absolutely.
forces that are trying to suppress and down are going to crumble and won't be able to.
Yes. Well, before, like you were saying, before people were saying that they felt they didn't have any power to be able to change it because they were trying to change their outside reality. You cannot change your outside reality without empowering yourself first. So that's where a lot of us that are realizing and stepping up onto the plate now and actually making moves to create these schools and all this, to change things, have done the work. Like they have stopped trying to control something outside of them, and they've gone, why am I feeling lack with this thing? Why do I feel anxiety with this thing? And they're like, okay, well, I've got to shift this from within me. And when you shift it from within yourself, it's usually because you didn't see the value of yourself, and so you thought that you were weak, or you were, and your mind was probably telling you stuff, like your logical thinking was telling you how bad you were, and that you had to shift all of that. You had to shift all of the anxiety from the heart and everything, and then you're like, oh my gosh, now I feel empowered, and I also have a space in my mind to be able to create, because I'm not worried about things anymore, because I've learned that if something comes towards me that's not good, I will first up feel it before it comes towards me. So I will walk the other way. I won't even need to interact with it. And if I do interact with it, then I take back my power, my will to be here in this position and shift the story for my own benefit. Humanity can shift the story whenever they want. As a globe, as a consciousness, as a whole, we can shift our story whenever we're ready for it. But we're that close to recognizing that we can actually use our imagination to benefit us. This is why, the powers to be sort of shunned it in the school systems. Oh, it's useless. Like literally 3 guys got together who were attached to, who, I don't know how much I can actually say on this. And they said when they started the school, really started the schools were starting, and then they went, oh, let's use this to manipulate humanity even more. And they said, they actually wrote it down, nobody is allowed to use their imagination past the age of 12. And so it was only like, I think it was 10 or 12. And then, so once you get into high school, okay, now we're just going to teach you copy and pasting. So you do what we say, you do what we say. And if you use your imagination, you're shunned. You're not allowed to use any of your. Definitely no psychic gifts. Very, very, very logically based. And it just kept us revolving in this cycle of, because all the logic can do is grab from the past and project into the future. It can't create something new. The imagination is that other part of ourselves that
Right.
can bring something new down. And then we ask our logic, can you ground this if you're working together? So once we start to work together with ourselves, within ourselves, we are empowering ourselves. And now we walk out to the world and we go, you know what? I don't like that reality. I'm going to shift that reality. And so you do. And I mastered it quite a bit when I was, sometimes we have nemesis. And in the early 2000s, I had this nemesis, and it was a dark entity because I see into different frequencies. It was one of the first interactions I'd had with the so-called draconians. I hope I haven't overstepped that
Oh no,
I'm allowed
you're
to
fine. You
say
can
that.
say the draconians or
Okay, so
reptilians.
yeah. And so yeah, it was one of them. And what happened was because I could see interdimensionally, they actually, I sat up in bed and saw them coming towards me. And it's like one of those movies when you blink, and when you blink, they're closer, and then you blink and they're closer, that sort of thing. And I remember going, stop, you're not to come any further. But I wasn't empowered. I was just going, stop, I really don't want you. But I hadn't empowered myself to match the frequency of that stop. So they come even closer. They sat on my bed. They wrapped their arm around me. I felt it. It was as physical as somebody else grabbing me by around the neck. And they're trying to put this pill in my mouth. And I remember piercing my lips. And then I just went, there was something that overcame me. I became empowered because I decided, and this is what all you have to do is decide, this is not the way my story goes. So I am willing myself and I am empowering myself to have something else happen. I don't know what it is because my logical mind hasn't got that in my life. I've never experienced what was going to happen next before. So it's not like I can retain it or bring it through my logical mind and as a memory. It was just like, I am just going to allow whatever needs to happen for this story to be cut. No more. Literally, like the force will be with you, right? And
Right.
what had happened was, it was, I didn't see all my chakras come into one ball of light, but I did see the ball of light. And for some reason in my head, it felt like all my chakras had come into one ball of light between my sacral and my heart chakra. And then it just exploded out like a whole heap of light just went from me. And it's like I'd risen myself out of the frequency of that being. So it could no longer do anything to me. And then I ran outside, this is in the middle of the night, put my hands in the dirt of the earth and just went, okay, well, that just happened. And then I went back inside and I went back to sleep, and I had a good night's sleep. So like, we have the power to shift anything. If I can shift that, I'm sorry, humanity has the power to shift absolutely anything. And in the physical, just because it's physical coming towards you does not mean that's the limit. That's the fear game that the logical mind has been programmed with, that our physical world is limited. But there is, when you go into the right hemisphere, which is connected to your soul, and that is the observer of all coming from love, every single path is on the table. So anything can happen. So you can imagine how we can actually shift this reality through that empowered humans. So funny that this has been brought out because I was actually told this by my guides. You're going to talk about empowering humans. And I'm like, really? Okay. I thought we were focusing on the school, but it's coming through. So it has to come through. Yeah.
No, that's beautiful, and I think I've been on an empowering kick too lately, and I think that's where the energies are shifting. Is everyone's always talked about you need to empower yourself to do this or that, but then that's all it was words that just, and nobody ever said this is how you empower yourself. It's like everybody had their own method, so depending on who you asked for, you had like 10 different ways, and you're like, well, I just need
there's
one, but which one? And none of
but
these
there's
are working.
but
So,
all of the ways are correct. It's how you feel, because you want to match your frequency with that empowered self. So once that's all it is you matching that frequency with that empowered self. Then you can say, when I hold this crystal, I am empowered. You could say, when I hold nothing, I am empowered. It doesn't matter what the story is. It matters how your vibration is and what you're actually feeling in that moment. I empowered myself. I just went, no, that's it. This is not going to happen. And once I'd done that, so it's more to do with your vibration and how you're moving through your life. So you're not, then I had no fear anymore. When that had happened, because I'd also asked, I'd been told by my guides, if you want to take the reins to your visions, to everything, then you have to take the reins and ask questions. And I'd asked, what was the true history of humanity? So the first ones that came to me was the draconians. Why? Because if I could meet their power and be just as in line with that, so that I wasn't afraid anymore, like if they come to me now, I can actually shift them and enlighten them. Like, I'm like, well, come with me. I'm not afraid of that. Why would I be afraid of that when I've already felt into and empowered myself by that that time that I did that. And so then I ended up, it lifted me into having more experiences. So then I ended up having other ETs coming towards me and giving me their history of humanity and so forth. So it took over 10 years for these visions to all come together. And I went, oh my God, I had 4 different species coming to me. The next one was the Palladians, which was just a godsend compared to the draconian energy, obviously. And I was very at home with that energy. The next one was the Anunnaki, and then the next ones were the Lyrans. So they all gave me their perspective of the history of humanity, because it is really our perspective in the end. So if you amalgamate all those perspectives together, the story started to evolve and our understanding started to evolve as to why our true history was. And before that, I had to empty my cup. So everything that I learned at school and that, I just went, I don't know, maybe it is what they teach you at school. I don't know if maybe it's something crazier. Maybe it's something, and I just emptied my cup completely. I have no idea. I'm just emptying everything and allowing that wisdom to come to me, or that information to come to me in whatever way it wanted to come. I think a lot of us are trying to use our logic to carve the path, and it's not working because it's very limited. Because there's only logic can only grab the past, and to carve a path with the past means you just go down the same avenue again. So we need to break all of the, like, empty our cup completely as we step into this new era of bringing in our gifts and igniting them and going, what can we do with this next? Following our hearts, our passions, our souls, connection, and moving through life like that, instead of, well, logic told me that this is the way to go, so I have to go this way, and that sort of thing. There was another story that's springing up, Mike. I hope I'm not talking too much.
oh no, I'm
Okay.
enjoying this and
Okay,
learning a lot.
so another story of that sort of thing, just to give an example, is there was a fella who was an amazing spiritual guy, very, very quite a powerful guy, and he knew what he was doing in some respects. He would go to the forest, this 1,000-year-old forest that's up in Mullaney, around these areas, and he would kind of sneak in there at night time when, it was closed off to the public and that. And he had specific crystals that he in his head, he had to do this specific thing, and he did it over and over. And this is what the logical mind goes, once it's worked once, we'll try it again and again. But when you work with spirit, you need to be open and live more in the moment. So he wanted to take me on this trip and to this forest at nighttime. And I'm like, I remember standing outside in the car park and going, magic's going to happen because magic happens around me. Things happen around me. Um, Especially then they did. And we walked through the forest at night time. We went past these two trees, and I felt like this shift of energy. And there was a glowing mushroom on the ground. And I'm like, oh, we're stepping into something here. I can feel it. Next minute, all of these fireflies came straight to us. So we had like hundreds, if not thousands, definitely hundreds and hundreds of fireflies glowing, flying around us, only around us. They weren't anywhere else, just us. And they were lighting up the path as we went so we could see where we were going. Because I'm like, I can't see where I'm going. So they lit our path for us. And as we got further along, I'm like just so excited, going, oh my God, look at this, holding out my hand. And these things are like just flying over my finger. None of them actually landed, I have to admit, but they did fly over my finger. And I was just so excited. Well, we get down this path, and I was a little further ahead of him. And all of a sudden, he just goes, stop. And I'm like, whoa, that just brought the energy down. And I turned to him, and he's like, I'm supposed to do the crystal thing, the crystal grid, And he wasn't living in the moment with the magic that was really, really presented to us in that moment. So all of the fireflies just flew off in that moment. They were with us for a good 10, 15 minutes, and then they just flew off as soon as he goes, stop. So this is what I mean about be careful on the spiritual path not to allow, because the logical mind has been programmed to be in charge of everything, and it's not meant to be in charge of everything. It's supposed to be able to let go enough to allow our imagination to come through for a new reality to be given to us. And that's really important at the moment, especially with people going on the spiritual path. Am I in the moment, or am I actually fixated on the way things have to go because my logic made it so back then, and it worked in 1999 it worked, so it should work in 2009 and you know what I'm saying? We
Right.
have to be careful as we're stepping into this new paradigm that we want to create. Just follow more than follow what the past is. More let it go and allow ourselves to be open to the living in the moment, and then exploring where is our passion wanting to take us, where's our heart wanting to take us, and that sort of thing.
And I find it interesting that along the lines of what you're saying is I have recently found myself going and saying, oh, I could do this and I can do that. I can do this. I can do that. And then as I'm thinking about this, I find myself taking a step back and saying, okay, why am I doing this?
Huh.
Is the reason why I'm doing it in alignment with what I'm doing? Or am I doing it because I feel like this is what I have to do or am supposed to do?
Yeah.
Or is something else drawing me to this, in which case it's not for me? And so it's like, maybe it's need to back off and try a different way that's
Yeah.
my way. And I actually had a conversation with a friend last night, and he was kind of like a mentor to me in a way, and has taught me a lot of things and continues to. But one thing we were joking about was to be on this project that we were talking about. He's like, you have to be known. And he laughingly said to me, he goes, at the time, he goes, Michael, your name is not out there. I'm struggling to get people to be like, yeah, that it's great that you have that guy on your team, or that this person. And so I took that to heart and was like, well, how do I make a name for myself? And it's my name, so I had to do it my way because
Yeah.
this is going to be my representation of me. And so when I was talking to him last night, and so this is like 3, 4 years after that conversation,
Yeah.
I was talking with him and I said, yeah, and he goes, well, I've been getting these things and now I'm laughing and telling them, well, I'm with this person. And they're like, oh, you're with, him. And he goes, and he was saying, I'm really proud that you have grown the way you have on your own.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I do remember someone saying I wasn't known. And so I had to build up myself. And so I took that to heart and I did it the way that felt right to me. And it was like him saying, you did it right, because he was
Yeah.
like, I'm proud of you because you have now built a name. And I was like, and the fact that he pointed out I did it all on my own, I was like, yeah, I mean, because I've had friends that have helped me with some things, and I always give them credit for doing that. But it's like, yeah, it was so, like, my body just felt so like, wow, and so energized that I was like, I did it right. I did it. And
Yes. You
it's
did.
seen. And so it's like amazing. And you sit back and you look at it and you go, yeah. And it's like you were saying, it was simply a series of choices. And some
Hmm.
of them were wrong choices, but
You
learned
soon
from
find
them,
out. You soon
changed the
find out.
choice, and became better for it.
Yeah. And you soon find out when they're a bad choice because they don't feel very good.
No.
And you see, like really, if you want to just let go of that logical mind and then feel into what to do next, just go, what's going to make me happy in this moment? It's as simple as that. What's going to make me happy in this moment? Because you're the central point of your existence. And when you're happy, other people feel that as well. So then they're wanting to be around you because you're happy. So it's like, just keep on going
Yeah.
towards what's going to make you happy. Literally did that yesterday. I'm actually house sitting at the moment before I start traveling, because I'm traveling to New Zealand and then to New York, like I told you, to do some channeling in New York. And with the house there, I'm actually at my girlfriend's place at the moment, and she's just let me stay here. But she's got this beautiful place that she wants to open up for events, and witch events and all sorts of different things, really cool stuff. And so I just felt like she was going to go somewhere, and I said, no, I'll stay here. And then I felt, oh, I know what I'm going to do while they're away. I'm going to go around the garden, because it's absolutely freaking amazing garden with Buddhas. It's big, huge Buddha statues and giant lumps of gold, rose quartz gold, feels like gold, rose quartz. Anyway, so I went round and took this video, and at the same time, she had just cleaned up the place. I didn't realize it, but she'd just done all this work cleaning. I just walked in, did the video, and then we got together that night, and it was like click, click, click. It was all online, and we're like, that happened without even talking to each other, without discussing any plans and all of that. No plans involved, just following our hearts and what we really, truly wanted to do in that moment, whether it's cleaning something or whether it's making a movie or whatever. You will feel this pull to do something, and it will improve your life and improve where you're at. And instead of, oh, the slog of the logical mind, I have to, and it just feels like this resistance. And then you're like, I'm so tired, not from doing it, but from the resisting of, you didn't really want to do it, you know what I mean? And this is when we step into this new earth. That's one thing I knew. It wasn't like people worked, but they worked because they were doing what they really wanted to do, and it created this beautiful reality that we had in existence, that was just, everyone was in the right place at the right time doing what they love. It's totally, totally different than what we have been, programmed or told we have to do, which is just made us feel very,
Yeah.
yeah,
And, I love how you're saying, just being, following your true self and what's making you feel good. And what I tell people when they ask me, like, I'm looking at doing like a podcast show, for example, how do I make it, something that's mine? And I go to them and I say, well, first, think about what you want your show to be. Second, always remember this is your baby. That's your show.
yeah,
And anybody who's coming to work with you with it is because they like it the way it is. Don't let them take over and make it something else.
yes,
Stand up
yeah,
for what's yours because remember, that's what they liked. And the third thing, and you'll probably appreciate this a lot, is I would say you have to be authentic. The
hmm,
second you start doing whatever they want, it ceases to be yours. It's gonna flop because your heart's not in it. You have to be authentic. And in doing that, whether it succeeds or fails, everyone is going to still want to be around and be like, hey, I know this didn't work out, but how would you like this opportunity? It's like because people will gravitate
yeah,
towards the authentic more than the person who's out there going, oh, yeah, I had that experience. And then when they're questioned about it somewhere else, they're like, well, I can't answer that because I never really did. And they're like, but you
yeah,
said you
yeah,
did. And so everybody, their little, what do you call it, pedestal will crumble.
yeah,
Where yours, whether you make mistakes or not, when you're authentic, your pedestal can't crumble
no,
because you owned every step of the way.
yeah, it's definitely, yeah, it's my journey has been absolutely freaking incredible. I look back at it and go, I've had the most unusual life compared to the normal people out there. But that's why, like, the thing that actually instigated my going live with channeling is my team actually stopped the visions when I was just turning 50. It wasn't like it was completely stopped. I still see the odd thing, but I was seeing a lot of different things. And now I don't see as much in that respect because they wanted me to ground this. And to ground it, I had to be more present in this world. So they were like, they actually showed me a vision of someone lying on me and just falling back and going, that the end kind of thing. I'm like, okay. And then the next step was all of a sudden I woke up, and that's, they call it twilight just as you wake up. You can get downloads easier because you're still in that dream world in the theta alpha state, but you're also just waking up to the beta state so you can remember what was being told. And they started to give me these really profound messages. And I'm like, oh, that is so beautiful. I'm going to make a video of it. And it took me 2 weeks to put the video together. And then the next, as soon as I put it together and published it, it's the start of Codes to Codes to a New Reality series on my YouTube. As soon as I published it, it they gave me another message, and so it would take another 2 weeks because I was still learning how to use the programs and everything as well. And then it just got better and better. Then I had a terrible, terrible breakup, and that propelled me to, well, if if I've tried it all their way, I've tried it all the way that doesn't work with relationships and so forth, I might as well just do me, completely me. So what do I really want to do? I had the same sort of epiphany moment that you did. What do I really want to do here? And then I want to channel. I want to channel live. And so I just threw myself live, a few years ago now, channeling live. And it's just got quicker and quicker and quicker and easier to get these messages through. But one of the first indications that I was channeling was when, I think I might have told you the story. I was very briefly go over it. I I was going to Akaroa in New Zealand, and I was with a fiance of mine at the time, and he was going to take photographs and just pull up on the side of the beach randomly anywhere. And I had this voice in my head because I was very negative. This is when I was 27, so we're talking a long, long time ago. 30 years ago, actually, to say the least. And yeah, so when I was there in the car, this voice in my head started going, just start thinking more positively. What's it going to hurt? No one else can hear what's going on in your thoughts anyway. Why not give it a shot? And I'm going, yeah, it won't make any difference, rah, 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 you know, in my head. But when I got to the actual beach, the same voice in my head said, open the car door. And I'm like, okay, this is a bit weird. Is anyone watching me? Like, I was really worried about how I'd be perceived by the outside world in those days. And there was no one on the beach. There was nobody because he just pulled in. New Zealand beaches are everywhere. They're just the whole place is a beach, really. So he pulled up, took off, and then I opened the car door and I saw like a very small sparkle in the sand. So I thought, oh, I'll just dig there. But it was like 2 to 3 inches down in the sand before I actually hit solid gold bracelet. And I'm like, oh my God, I just found a solid gold bracelet by digging it up in the sand, by listening to this voice in my head. So that's when everything started to change for me. I was 27 at the time. I started to listen to this voice, and it started to teach me how to control my mind and not let it control me and so forth. I lost it all. They said the training wheels are off now. You're on your own. And for a good decade and a bit, I was like fumbling around with everybody else again, but still getting a lot of very incredible things happening to me. Uh, Story upon story upon story.
Yeah.
Seeing the dead, all sorts of things. And I'm like, where do you want your focus? I want my focus on the potential of humanity, because that's what really excited me. Like, I could have used my gifts to do what Alison Dubois did in The Medium, if you've ever seen that show.
I did.
You know, I could have helped solve crimes and all sorts, and I just went, no, I want to use my gift for what's humanity's potential. And so they gave me this experience of being woken up in the future Earth of the potential humanity and what it actually felt like. It was just so clear. My mind was so clear. But you could also materialize things. You could still use your hands as physical. There was still a physical world, but you could also do all this magic as well. It's like magic was part of the reality that we were living in. And we also saw, they're telling me now, you also see that even animals have quite a few magical abilities, but we can't see it in the animals because we're only seeing from the outside physical point of view. So we don't see their magic, how they actually work with nature and stuff, and they can disappear and reappear and all sorts of things. And they've got some of them have special powers, and we won't even see those special powers in those animals because we're just blind to it. We're not in the same frequency of that power, so we just ignore. We don't see it.
That's amazing. And I'm like toying in my head of one of the questions I have is like from back in the beginning of the hour. And I'm like, do I want to disconnect and bring
That's
that
all
up,
right.
or, keep
No,
going? And the question I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't ask is, in the school, you talk about going to different places like Arcturus, Pleiades, and Lyra. And my question is, did you develop in the game your vision of what they look like as a race, or did you leave that out and it's just like you're seeing the planet or the star where they live and there are no beings in the games?
Not really any beings yet in the games as such, but if you go to the portals, the ones that I actually created, that's on my YouTube, going through, I think it's going through a portal into Pleiades, then there are beings of images like the Palladian one. They literally took hold of me for 2 weeks. I was in bliss for 2 weeks while I was creating that video, and they were drawing me to the images, how to manipulate them to create all these different kind of, I mean, lots of them were the blondes, because they said, we've got to bridge something together here. But Pleiades is full of many, 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 many different planets and sun and stars and so forth. It's not just, the blonde blue eyes or anything. There's just many. And Arcturus is more the bald type beings with the slanted eyes. They're very sensitive. So when I was tapping into them, I had incredible experiences of seeing auroras around people, and then my smell got really heightened, like everything got heightened. I'm like, whoa, what's happening here with me? Like, it was really kind of freaky. And I mean, really heightened, because my smell got heightened when I was pregnant, but oh my gosh, this was really, really something. I actually chucked out a heater that I just got because I thought there was something wrong with it, because I could smell the oil in it. Like, I was that sensitive. So yeah, the Palladians are helping me, and so are the Arcturians with that concept of that. But they said, this is those portals that I was going through, and I've created those videos that are on my YouTube. They're not actually in the school yet. I mean, I might do something about that in the future, because who knows where it's going to go. I'm just following the advice from my team as well. But those videos are, I was really channeling a lot and to get that out, but it's just a bridge. It's not the be all, because our logical mind wants to put something in a compartmentalized kind of a box and go, well, that is that. It just makes it easier for us to understand it in this game that we're at, where we are very limited in our expression of ourselves. But the more that we start to become more in tune with our feelings, we'll start to have more conversations and be channeling and be able to communicate with way, way, way more. Then we'll start to realize, oh, it's a frequency alignment more than an actual physical being alignment. That a physical being can come with the frequency, but there's a lot more to it. There's just a lot more to it. Yeah, but they were bridges, those movies that I've made, those videos I've made, they're bridges for people if they want to go and look at and feel into. But I'm not saying that if you're involved in the Arcturians, you might watch it and go, well, my experience was a little bit different than that, or I had this as well, or I had, this was part of it, and I can't understand that part of what she's saying, and that sort of thing, and that's absolutely fine. I just had an overview of something, and it wasn't, I don't want to squash anybody else's reality in what they feel is of purpose to them. But we've got to kind of get this in a place where we know our truth, our authentic truth. And that's more important. If you feel your authentic truth is different, then go with that. But I would certainly, if I did feel when I first started this journey and I met the Cherokee Elder, I thought I was from Sirius. Like, I thought I was from the brightest star in the sky, because that's the biggest one I could see, And she just said to me, well, no, you're not from there, because she was sent by her elders to go specifically find Palladians, people, souls straight from Pleiades. That was her whole journey, to seek those people out. And she found me in a crowd and pulled me out. And then a year later, she found me in another crowd and pulled me out. So she said, you'll be working with me. So there's all of this. So much has happened in my life, but it's like, we don't want to squash somebody else's experiences, but we want you to be authentically true to yourself. So empty your cup, like we were talking about before, and say, you know what, I'm not exactly sure. So if you want to show me a real truth, let it come 3 times in different ways. If it comes 3 times in different ways, now you've got my attention. But you have to, if you're not sure, if your logical brain is held on, if I just held on to Sirius and meant that's it, I wouldn't have gone on the journey I had with all of the Palladian information that I got, because I would have been stuck there in this untruth. So we have to empty our cup and allow the experience to come to us. At least I would say 3 times in different ways. That's how I did it anyway, to find the truth.
And I'm kind of curious because I've been talking with a lot of people that are like starseed and aware of stuff. And one of the common things that I've heard from them is when you look into the sky, the constellations that you notice first and the ones that you always see are the ones you're from. So, for example, like I see Orion everywhere I look, and then I'll see others. And so it's like they're like, "Well, yeah, you're part Orion. You had a lot to do
Yeah,
with Orion." And so I'm like, "Okay,
yeah.
that makes sense."
But that's what I did with Sirius, right? And Sirius and Orion are right there, like they're right there. So you can't not see them. Pallades is like a little dapple that's over in the yonder. I wouldn't have even noticed it. I didn't even know it existed until someone pointed it out to me. So I don't know. It just, this is how I did it. That's what I could say. Is I just let everything go. I mean, having a Cherokee elder come up and pull you out of 2 crowds, that's pretty extraordinary, and then work with you is, I was very lucky in that respect, where I was deterred away from Sirius and towards play. I'm not saying that I haven't had a life on Sirius. Maybe I have, before that and before that. If you keep going back, we're all one, you keep
Yeah,
going to
I've, yeah,
infinity, we're all one. So like,
I've heard a
you
lot
got to
of people will say, as a star being, you come from one star, and that's your origin. And I'm like, I don't necessarily
mm,
agree with that. I,
I
I
don't agree with that either. I
feel like
think
you
we've had,
can be multiple.
yeah, like if you were on Pallades, there was a lot of communication through Palladian. Even the planets were beings in their own right, and so is Earth. And there's a lot of portals and stuff that you could go into, flip to other planets and all sorts of things. So if you had communication with them in your life, you probably would have visited them and have an experience with that. And it's not, we're not bound by one thing and that's it. This is very logical thinking, to think that you are that and that's it. It's very in your box, nice and neat. You've got your little bow on it. It's nice and neat. But it's not always that way. It can be that you could have had a life where you were Arcturian, and then you were on Earth, and then you ended up going back to Arcturus again, getting more information, and coming back to Earth. Or you could have been trapped on Earth. Lots of humans were trapped on Earth through the sphere game, though. That has happened, but it could be that you decided to be a panther, or you decided to be, it just depended on your frequency, your soul's frequency, and what lessons it wanted to learn next. What was the gain, and what was there's this understanding of all when you become in that spiritual sort of scenario. You know more when you have left this body, because you're no longer entangled in the fear game in the logical sense. And so you are now, okay, I'm an observer, and frequency will line up with that. But if you're trapped here in fear, if you leave in fear, then you have still got work to do to get rid of that fear, so you'll come back. So you're kind of caught in a matrix of that, as they always show me a maze then. And it's like going back and forth in this maze and never really getting out of it. But when you're free from that, you have no fear, then your imagination is your oyster. It's an infinity kind of a thing. And there's a lot of held energy forces that collaborate, and consciousnesses that collaborate into planets like Arcturus or Sirius, and so they pull together and they love that. That feels like home, so they do return back to those spaces. But it's not necessary that that's the be all. You could have gone to other places as well.
Right, I agree. And we're actually getting close to the hour.
Uh,
You have time to go a little bit longer?
a little bit longer. I just hear some movement in the next room, so I have to be a bit. But yeah, I can go a little bit longer.
Okay, well, the next thing I wanted to ask you what about is, like we had talked about before the show, is giving you a chance to promote and talk about your New York live channeling that's coming up.
Yeah. So that was really cool because I went live, and uh, a beautiful lady over in New York was watching, and she was in a job, and her mind was a little muddled, and she ended up having a reading with me and then watching me more of my lives, and it literally changed everything. It changed her whole life. So she ended up with quite a good paying job. And then recently in my lives, I was saying, well, my universe has kind of put me in a place where I'm kind of just roaming around now, and just maybe I'm supposed to travel around the world, you know. And she's like, oh, she actually had a reading done with somebody. And in that reading, this lady said, Bobbie's coming to New York. And she's like, really? She goes, yep, she's coming to New York. And then Yin, this beautiful lady from New York, said, oh, okay, I'll tell the group, because she had a group that pulled together that did CE5 and stuff. And she said, Bobbie doesn't know it yet, but she's coming to New York. And then she heard me on the show just like maybe a couple of weeks later saying, oh, where am I going? You know, maybe I'm supposed to travel. And she's like, you could come to New York. And I'm like, okay. So then she ended up paying half my fares. We ended up going on I suggested, let's do GoFundMe, because I felt terrible that she was paying half my fares and airplane flights and stuff. And we ended up getting $1,000 one donation, $1,000 on that. This is US dollars. And my team was going, don't worry, it's all going to come through. And everything's just gone click, 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 so easy. So the flights are all booked. And she's now booking the actual places, like little cafe places and stuff like that, where I can do talks, to exclusive talks at, and that sort of thing. It's going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, so from 17th of April through to 20th of May, I'm in New York. And I also, it really reminds me of when I went to Illaroo with David Icke. I had a dream about going to Illaroo with David Icke, and well, not with him, but with someone semi-famous. And I was on a bus, and then the next morning he's like, anyone want to come with me? And I'm like, well, obviously I'm going, because and it was like everything went click, click, click for that. It just works out really, really easy. It's like spirit's just taking you, you know. I'm supposed to be there. And I had to be in Uluru on this specific date in 2011, because I was connecting to the rock and bringing through all the information from Pleiades, and all the information that I'd had of our potential. I was like pouring through the rock into it was an incredible experience. That's another story there, right there. Like the heartbeat of the mountain was just amazing. Anyway, that story aside, that went really simply. So is this going to New York. So I feel there's purpose for some reason for me to be there spiritually, not just for these talks. Yes, it will help me expand and maybe go further around the world, but I will definitely be activating the people, and so there's activations going to happen. I can just feel something is arising in me. Something is going to happen. So that's New York. That's the start of maybe, I don't know where, but we're going from there. But yeah, that's happening.
And for everyone watching, the GoFundMe link is in the description. She sent it over to me, so I included it there. So
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so That will help immensely. Yeah, accommodation and all of that would be just so great. Because then, if we can make this work, then I'll go to another country, another place, or another state, or another whatever. Just keep going if this is the way it's supposed to go, and it'll happen anyway because spirit will make it happen. But
Yeah.
I just follow these lines. I could easily get in my logical brain and go, oh my God, I've got no home, I've got nowhere to go, but I'm not. I'm very present and feeling very good about this. It's getting exciting as well. It's fun.
Yeah, and growing up, I always had the mindset and mentality of whatever I want to do, the universe has a way of making it happen. And if
Yes.
it doesn't happen, there's a reason why. So it's not that
Yeah.
I failed, it's that wasn't what was meant to be at that
Early.
time.
Yeah. Because
So
I
it's
was,
like,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly, Michael. Because I was in a relationship that I thought was the one, like you do. This is the one. And I felt so safe for a wee while anyway. We ended up parting as really good friends. We're still friends. Um, but it wasn't meant to be. And it's like, no, you're supposed to travel. You're supposed to go here, there, and everywhere. So it's got to go with the flow. I would prefer it to have happened 20 years ago when I was a lot younger. But c'est la vie. We're doing it when I'm 57. That'll do. I have to just like go with this.
uh, you still amaze me every time you mention that. And I'm like, because, in all honesty, it's like when you say your age, I'm like, no way. It's
Yeah,
like,
I've always looked younger for my age. I've always looked 10 years younger. I mean, in the light, there's crinkles and I do have some creases and wrinkles and stuff, but and I've put on a little bit more weight. Damn it, Janet, menopause is really shocking. but
uh,
but
you know,
yeah, I do. I've always looked 10 years younger than what
I
I.
think it's the light and authenticity of it because I've kind of noticed and feel like I'm it's like I know I'm old. I'm in my late 40s now, and I'm like, oh man, but then it's like I'll find myself going, yeah, but look at what I'm able to do, and it's like my
Yeah.
mindset shifts to the light of what's going on, and it's like, yeah, I'm able to do this, I'm able to do that. Like I was up until 5 a.m. one day and got maybe 5 hours of sleep that night, and it was like, okay, I can still function, and was a little tired at that night, but adjusted. But it's
Yeah.
like there's comfort in knowing, even though I'm at the age where they say you should be slowing down, you should be doing this or that, and I'm able to keep doing what I want to do.
Yeah.
And so,
I'm grateful for that too. I'm grateful that I have the internet and all of this and such good friends too to help me out. And I was house sitting for 2 months and that was just godsend. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm constantly grateful for what I have. And it's just bringing me, like, this place is so beautiful. You'll have to watch the video that I just produced of this place as a workshop event and everything. And she has a spa. So, yeah, I'm really looked after. The universe loves me.
yeah, I can see that. You're so heartbroken having to be there, and watching over this. Such a hard life there.
Such a hard life, but it's been a lot of heartaches, a lot of bad
Oh
relationships,
yeah,
so forth. I've learned so much about myself through that, through those relationships. Turned them all back on me and gone, what am I lacking? Why did I bring that in to show me my lacks and where I'm, not supporting myself? Okay, fine. And I did.
yeah. But
Yeah.
one thing that I really find fascinating and actually love about where you're at, where I'm at, and the fact that, like, you're currently in Australia, going to New Zealand.
Yeah,
I'm
my
here in
parents'
America,
anniversary. Yeah, I had
and
to go.
yeah. But what I'm finding amazing is you're in a position where we were talking before, we went live, where you're doing this school, you're doing all these the live channel, everything, and your goal is to empower everyone. And you're not just saying do this to empower. You're giving your story and showing how it empowered you. And
Yeah.
I was saying, I'm now getting on a
Yes.
kick where I go on interviews and I'm like, yeah, here's this story. And, yes, it impacted me, but this is the impact it had on me. This is
Yeah.
what happened because of this. And so I'm like, here's the empowerment and here's how it affected me. And so it's like we're on the same page,
Yes. Yes.
be it in two different countries. And it's like, that's what, when we talk
Frequency
about,
alignment, right? And that's
yeah,
why you end up having interviews with each other. Same frequency alignment. It's very beautiful.
yeah. And the thing I had to say too that I love about when we talk on Messenger and stuff is I'll message you and go, hey, I'm feeling like it's time, for an episode. And you're like, oh, I'd love to because I got this and this going on. And I'm like, perfect timing.
Yeah. Love that too, Michael. It's really cool. This has been awesome.
Yes. And I do truly appreciate you and all that you're
Thank
doing.
you.
And I knew, this is, I don't even know why I'm doing this, but it's like, wow, I'm actually getting a little, like they would say on Saturday Night Live, a little verklempt here for a moment. But and for those in Australia, that means getting a little emotional. It's
Oh,
about something. And I just wanted to say, in all honesty and all, talking about authentic, I just want to say thank you for you doing your service and you
thank
doing
you.
what you do for humanity. It really means a lot that you are being a
Well,
way shower.
thank you, Michael. That's a big deal. Thank you so much. I could feel that for sure. And same vice versa back to you as well. Like I just take my hat off to all those that are doing this work. It's not been an easy ride, and yeah, I totally get
Yeah,
it. So thank you as well for everything that you're doing. And I love that we're authentic. We just are who we are, and it's just helping each other so much in the
yeah,
end and more, right? Watch out, world.
I know. And one of the things that I love too about how this synchronicity worked is I remember on the first episode at the end saying, if you ever have anything you want to share, please, feel free to use my show to promote it. And you're
Thanks.
like, well, thank you. And then, I feel like there's a lot of people that say that. But then I was like, I actually followed through with it and then was like, hey, I'm reaching out, are you, anything to promote, anything new? And you're like, oh, do I have new
Yes.
for you? And it was like, that's what I loved about it is like, I felt like, yes, I kept my word and here we are.
Yes. And we had a really, and it was such a good chat, such a good show. Thank you, Michael, for everything.
Yes. And thank you for the school. That is
Yeah, I'll
so
keep it
needed.
going forever and ever. It's till the end, till I pass on. So there's going to be like thousands of games on it by the end of it. I've been just putting 3 up at a time. I've got another 3 to go up tomorrow. Tomorrow. And then I might do a lesson on fairies while I'm here because this place is just riddled with she's put ornaments of fairies everywhere around the trees and stuff like that. And it's a big property with Buddhas and fairies and crystals. So I'm like, this is an ideal place to do a fairy lesson. We will go there. We'll go into that realm and see what we pull through.
You
So
know,
yeah.
that actually raised you just popped a question in my head about that because like Ireland is big in the Fae. UK is has the Fae, but they don't really talk about it, but they acknowledge it's there. It's not like the Irish do though.
Yeah.
And Australia was a UK prison colony. Sorry to say, but that's really what it was in history. I'm glad it's evolved from that. But do you
But
feel like the Fae are original to Australia, or do you think they came over with the
I think
UK?
they're original to Earth. The original Australian people, Aboriginals, were they had their own concept of it. The Cherokees, like Cherokee elders, used to do lessons on the Fae as well over in America. Um, it's just the storytelling of the Irish have held on to that understanding of that connection between Mother Earth and plant life and the Fae, because the the earth grows the plants, and to be able to communicate to the plants, the Fae are like energies or portals of energies from the elements and the plants that pull off and then can converse with the telepathically with humans. So you can actually find what plant would be good for what healing and so forth. And it's all over the earth. It's more than what you think. I'd say even the Africans that know probably know mini people or something. There would be that it's everywhere. They're everywhere. It's just part of the concept of humanity being able to connect to earth and plant life and so forth. So yeah, I've got a lot of incredible stories. The Cherokee elder gave me a name, Alana Wananahi, and Alana Wa means turtle. She says where I carry the code on the back of my back to lead people through to the new earth. But Nanahi means fairy, and everyone at Ohio when I went on this vision quest was like going, oh yeah, and Sundance. She said, oh yeah, you're fairy clan. And then she came up to me and whispered in my ear, no, you're a creator of the elemental, you're creator of that. So I have this concept of this understanding that it's you imagine something into the world to be able to connect with humanity. So that was what was imagined, and so it ends up being like something that can communicate with, but they're only mischievous because they had specific purpose with humanity, and humanity went on that journey of chopping that part of their communication off. They weren't telepathic anymore, so they started with the riddles, and if you can end the riddle telepathically, then you can come into our portals and so forth and join us and so forth. They were only meddlesome because they didn't have any purpose, and so they tried to get our attention through being meddling and stuff like that. So that's those last thousands of years when we were in our logical frame of thinking, just masculine mind, and weren't really having much to do with them anymore. So yeah, there's much to be discovered when it comes to elementals and connection back to the plant life and earth again.
Yeah, and I feel like they became tricksters too
That's
when
the meddlesome that I was talking about. The
yeah,
tricksters. They become tricksters because they had purpose to communicate with humanity. And when it was severed, they tried to get our attention. So the only way they could do that is to be tricksters. That's why they did that.
yeah,
If you were ignored, if you were a kid being ignored in the corner of the room, you'd turn around and throw something and be annoying. Come on, I want attention anyway, that sort of thing. I mean, they have a
exactly.
limited sort of a aspect of energy that their purpose is involved with humanity, and when it was severed, it was difficult. It was yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I'll leave it there, I suppose. 15 minutes over. I'll have to get going. Sorry, Michael.
Oh, I was just about to end it, so
Yeah,
we're in
yeah.
sync still. I was
Perfect timing.
just about to close it out.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Much gratitude. And for you to keep going on the authentic path that you're going on. So cool.
Well, thank you, and thank you to everyone in the chat room, and thank you to everyone that's watching. So I'm going to say goodnight to everyone, and thank you again, Bobbie, for a
You're
fun
welcome.
and exciting, adventurous episode.
What's next?
It's
Oh my
exactly.
God.
Well, I can't wait to see what you bring on the show the next time.
I know, right? I'm in New York. Okay.
So, everyone, just, my wish for you all is to wake up in the light of who you are and let it shine and let it get brighter and brighter. And with that, I'm going to say good night.
Good night.
Oh, there it is. Here we go.